agree and understand that anytime we are talking of business data analytics, these are purely a practical paper. So I'm having this. Just a moment here. So you're saying that as we'll be looking at BDA, Business Data Analytics, these are purely practical paper and a very interesting one, Business Data Analytics. So what I want us to consider in today's session, as Molim was mentioned, first of all is for us to look at the overview, right? Whatever that will be expected to cover, and of course, the best strategy that will be required to use. In addition to the strategy that will be required to use, it will also be important for us to understand what aspect of resources will you always be required to have for us to manage business data analytics effectively. That's what we'll be looking at in our segment today. So looking at BDA, just a moment here. So, as Morimu is saying that looking at this overview, you'll find that business data analytics, by the way, it has only 5 topics. It has only 5 topics, only 5 topics. Of course, we'll be analyzing these topics one by one. And on these topics, you'll find that whatever approach that I want us to have on this, number one, regardless of if you are good, you're perfect in Excel, or you normally tend to use Excel in your workplace. At this point, I want you to basically block that mind, because at this point, one of the mistakes that a lot of students normally tend to do in BDA, number one, they assume that they are very good in Excel because it is probably a package that they normally tend to use in their work environment most of the cases. So in this case, when they are approaching BDA, they are approaching with a mind that, you know what, I know these things. I'm very good in Excel. So BDA will just be a walk on the park. At this point, number one, I want you to block that mentality. Because at this point, business data analytics, Excel concept is very good. Let it be part of your asset. You're having an asset that you're going to use, but don't have that mentality that you're very good in Excel. Because you'll find that when we are looking at BDA number one, what will be required to understand is that at this point, you will be required to have basic understanding of what you've been doing all through your journey of CPA. Because you'll find that BDA number one, as you'll be analyzing the topics, you're going to see that we are going to cover areas to do with financial reporting. We'll be looking at areas to do with financial management. We'll also be looking at areas to do with taxation. We'll be looking at areas to do with management accounting. We'll be looking at areas, of course, also to do with what? To do with auditing. See? So this basic knowledge of what we had throughout our course up to where we are today, this knowledge will be very important. Now, whatever that we'll be using this knowledge to, we are going to now apply Excel functions. We are going to apply some Excel functions to do what? Now to handle this case. So you'll find that even if you're very good in Excel, maybe the one that you've been using in your workplace, at this point you'll find that probably for the sake of business data analytics, maybe that whatever that you've been doing, maybe 10% will be used. But the rest, it will be upon you to do what? To master the key functions that will be important for you to handle all this. So number one, as you are approaching this BDA, is first of all, we are looking at it as not only Excel. Because one of the mistakes that I've also seen some trainers doing is that in this case, you'll be told that it's all about you understanding the shortcuts of Excel. Yes, the shortcuts will be very important. But again, the big question will be, will you be able to use this in your working? That's the most important thing that we should always tend to ask ourselves. So as you are starting this BDA, number one mentality that I want us to have is this, right? That we'll be having key concepts in relation to whatever that we'll be doing through our course. Then we must be very good in some Excel key concepts. Again, you'll find that as much as you are talking of a practical paper, as much as you're talking of it being a practical paper, again, BDA has these elements, which at this point, we must always tend to be very good at. Business data analytics, it has a theory component. It has a theory component, theory part, which of course will contain like 20%. The theory part will contain like 20%. Then of course you're having the practical paper, the practical part. The practical part now, these are where you'll be required to use, of course, the Excel, talk about the Excel packaging in working it out. Then in this case, in addition to the practical part, you'll find that majority of the students, they normally tend to ignore theory, which is very bad. So at this point, also the theory part will be very key throughout this course, because it is a new form of a unit, which in this case you'll find that we will be required at least to understand some terminologies and some processes which are always used more so when it comes to the information technology world. And also in addition to that, these terms that are used with the system that are always appropriate when it comes to matters to do what? Business data analytics. So in this case, Mwalimu is insisting and saying that number one, other than the practical part of it, we're also going to work with the theory, because we'll find that majority of the students here, they're going to concentrate on the practical, ignoring the theory, which in that case, that will be very suicidal. That will be very, very suicidal. So it is important from the word go, as you are looking at business data analytics, we should be having this in mind, that we'll be having the theory part and will also be expected to cover the practical part of it, which all will always tend to be tested. That's another keynote that we must be having in our fingertips as we are starting this journey. The other element that, again, we should be able to understand here, my good students, when it comes to business data analytics, and this is my advice. At this point, we are not doing business data analytics for exams. We are not doing business data analytics for exams only. Rather, we are doing this for knowledge. We are doing this for knowledge. That is what I want to insist, that for business data analytics at this point, we are not doing this for exams only, but we are doing this for knowledge. It's not all about passing exams only, but most important is the knowledge that you're going to acquire this point, because mwalimu will be looking at some of the practical areas which probably they will not even be tested in our case, but they'll be very important when you go outside here. Because if you're aware that, of course, the accounting tasks are changing, of course, with this emerging technology, you'll find that accounting tasks and duties are quite changing. And in this case, we find that one of the key items that is leading, it is the ability of you to analyze data as an accountant. And that's why I'm saying, like, at this point, us doing this business data analytics, we are not doing this only for exams. But what we are doing here, we are doing this for knowledge. That is what I want you to embed in your mind as you are starting this business data analytics. Embed this in your mind, that we are doing this for knowledge. We are doing business data analytics for knowledge. That is very key. Another key item and keynote that you must be able to understand. The other element, because you're doing this for knowledge, this is what I'll advise. It is important that you have at least a laptop on your end. As I'm saying, this is not just doing it for the purpose of doing it. I'll want us in a sense that whenever we'll be doing this, you'll also be doing it practically on your end. So as much as you're doing this on this end, you're also doing it practically. So I will expect that anytime you are attending this class, not unless you are on a move, I'll be expecting all of us to be having your PCs or laptops wherever you are. So that whenever we are doing it practical here, you're also doing it practical on your end. So that at the end of the day, in each and every session, we should always be able to learn something new, which should be a valuable knowledge when it comes outside here. Because you'll find that, yes, a person has cleared BDA, but if you give him a task, probably this person was just doing it for exams. You'll find that, yes, you're having BDA, you pass that exam, but literally you can't even apply a single concept on your own, because simply you're doing it for exams, right? Umati kuja, twende, bora tupite mtihani. No, that is not the mentality of this class. Our mentality would be for us to acquire that skill. So after talking on that, Okay, I think I'm back. Alan Karanja, I think can get Mwalimu, right? So, sorry for that, Shika. So you're saying that at this point, I'd be expecting us to have a look at that. And in this event, then I want us to do the summary. At least once you've gone through the videos on the platform, again, coming to class, it will be very easy for you to follow it up. It will be very easy for us to follow it up. So at this point, I'll want us to have a look at, of course, the summary of these 5 topics. I'll want us to have a look at the summary of the 5 topics. As at the end of the day, you'll find that business data analytics will be a very interesting paper. Will be a very, very interesting paper. So this is what will be expected to cover in VDA. I've just shared a certain document, which I believe is visible to all of us. These are syllabus content for business data analytics. If I've not shared it on the group, of course, I'm going to share this immediately after this, so that we look at what will be expected, of course, to cover here. Okay. So on this case, we start with doing or looking at the first content. Okay, believe me that that is audible. So you're saying that at this point, you'll find that whatever that should be expected, of course, to cover, at least we will be expected to talk over topic number 1, which is always introduction, of course, to Excel. Introduction to Excel. These are what we'll be expected to cover. As you can see on introduction to Excel, main elements that we'll be expected to cover, of course, we'll be looking at utilizing the keyboard shortcuts, which will be very important. Another key element that will also be expected to cover here is to learn or to understand, right, how we can conduct this analysis using data tables, talk about pivot tables, and other common functions. And that's what Morimo was saying about other common functions, that majorly on this case, it is always about the functions that we are having, because it is a function that we'll be having which will guide us, is a function that we're having which will guide us all through in applying the same for MA, in applying the same for all these other units. This will be very, very important. Then in addition to the same, you'll find that key element also that will be required to understand here is topic number 2. Topic number 2, it is all about introduction to data analytics. Introduction to data analytics. And this topic number 2, these are what entails, most of the cases, these are what entails what? These are what entails the theory part. See? Topic number 2 is what entails the theory part, where number 1 will be expected to understand the concept of cross industry standard process for data mining. That is, of course, very key. We'll also be able or rather, will also be expected to understand the concept of big data and data analytics. If at all you can do our sample now, you'll find that majority of the questions that are always tested in theory, you'll never miss the big data and data analytics. This one, you'll never miss this one. You'll never miss this one. So it will always be very important for us to do it, for us to consider this big data and data analytics. That will be very, very important. For the theory component, you will never miss this for theory component. You never miss that for theory component. Then, in addition to that, it will also be very important for us now to consider the tools. Remember, these tools, as much for Kasneb, will be looking at them theoretical, But of course, if time will be allowing in class, some of these items, we'll be looking at them practically. For the sake of your papers and for the sake of exams, of course, it is expected that you have a good understanding on the theory part of it. But for practice purposes, it will be important that we do understand even the practical part of it, because that is the main goal. The main goal is the knowledge that you're having. That is the main goal that we are looking at this point. So on this case, of course, we'll be expected to cover this for theory, understanding the concept behind these analytics tools, going ahead and also look at how can we use some of these tools, of course, practically. Then when you come to the same topic, point number 4, data visualization in Excel, remember the whole idea here is for us to present our data. The whole idea here is for us to make sure that whatever that we are presenting to the users of financial statements, it is well understandable. At the same time, it is well presented. So that is where on this course, will also be required to learn some concepts to do with the dashboards, preparation of the dashboards, talk about, in this case, doing or creating dynamic dashboards. They'll be very important for practice. They'll be very, very important for practice. Then, in addition to that, you'll find that majority of this bit, except for data visualization, which this part, we are going to cover it on Introduction to Excel. You see point number 4 in or this bulletin 4 in topic number 2, we are going to cover it while we'll be introducing our Excel, because this is more of the practical bit of it, where we will be expected, of course, to present our data. So on business data analytics, data visualization in Excel, part of it we are going to cover it, not part of it, but all of it. We are going to cover it on this area, on topic number 1. So these are what would be expected to cover in topic number 2. But 90% of this area, topic number 2, this is what will form a larger part of the theory component. And for the purpose of our exams, then you'll find that if at all you are talking of the theory part, this is where it will have a very huge chunk. So it is important that we do understand topic number 2 clearly. We do understand topic number 2 very, very clearly. Looking at that, now we are going to jump at the main areas, which will form the basis of business data analytics at this level. As Molimo had started, we said that number 1, there are some key concepts that we must be able to understand and remember throughout the one that we've been conducting, the one that we've been studying throughout our journey of CPA. So on this case, for business data analytics, we'll be having 2 parts. We'll be having the core application of data analytics, and we'll also be talking about data analytics in specialized areas, where the core application of data analytics, number 1 item that we'll always consider is financial accounting and reporting. Remember, through your course, right? Through your course, before you reach at this level, of course, you have been taken through training of all this bit of financial reporting. So now, whatever that we'll be doing at this level, we will be applying that knowledge that we've been studying all through. So right now, it is not written. We are not writing it on paper. We are doing it practically using Excel. So you'll find that, as what I was saying earlier on, because look at this case. Take, for example, preparation of income statement, statement of financial position and cash flows. Remember, these concepts, you did them while you are doing your coursework at your lower levels. Analyzing financial statements using ratios, talk about common size statements. These items, we did them in our course while we were doing our lower levels. So whatever that we'll be doing now, is for us to apply the same knowledge in conducting or doing business data analytics. Using the Excel functions, are you able to prepare common size statement? Using the same Excel function, are you able to prepare a proper statement of financial position? Using the same functions, my good students, are you able to prepare forecasts? Now, that is where the Excel functions will always tend to come in. That is very important. That's very important to note. And of course, the data visualization. Now, you see, whatever that we are going to cover here, it is exactly the same thing that will be repeating in financial reporting. Because once you've understood how to present your set at this point, doing this visualization after we have prepared our income statement, after we have prepared our SAP, it will be very, very easy. So that is to say, my good students, as we are starting this, one of the most important topic that you must always tend to have at your fingertips, always. This is topic number 1 in business data analytics, because this is what will form foundation for all the presentation that we'll be doing all through. You're going to be my witness and you're going to see it. Whatever that you're going to cover in topic number 1, including presentation of our data, is what will be expected now to apply in all these areas where number 1, we've seen we're having financial reporting and our core application. Very important to note. Come to another core application. Other core application that will be expected to understand, this is financial management. I believe before we reach at this level, we must have done the concept of time value of money. So what Mwalimu normally tend to do, Mwalimu will always tend to take us back on what we did, so that by the time we are doing this, we will be in a very good position in understanding it practically. I'm going to take you back. We are going to look at the basics concepts of financial management, like the time value of money. We're going to do all that so that when we have understood the concept of what we did at our basic level, we apply our knowledge in terms of Excel and using all the functions that we'll be having to work out these problems now. Like when we'll be talking about TVM, that is time value of money, we'll be talking about loan amortization schedules, we're talking about the concept of NPV. You see, all these concepts, at some point, you must have done them at our basic level. So whatever that we'll be doing here is for us to apply that knowledge at this point of business data analytics. So at this point, you can clearly agree with Mwalimu that honestly, business data analytics is not always about us knowing Excel. As much as you are a pro using Excel in your workplace, at this point, it is important that you block that mentality. As much as you are a pro in using Excel in your workplace, for the sake of these sessions, it will be important that you block that mentality. It will be very important that you block that mentality, because once you block that mentality, that is when we are going to clear our mind to take in new things. After we are done with core application, my good students, look at point 4, or the other bit of application of data analytics, now in specialized areas. The first thing we've looked at business data analytics, of course, in core application, or rather core application of BDA, which was financial accounting and reporting and financial management. Looking at the areas of specialization, number 1, we have management accounting. Karanja, did you do management accounting at some point? Peranja, have you ever done a MA at some point? You can unmute, talk to us. Yes, you have. Alan, you've done a MA at some point, right? Alan, you've done a MA at some point. Was the first time that we're doing a MA? Amos? Yes. Hilary, you've done a MA at some point, right? So it will not be the first time for us to do management accounting. You'll find that with this knowledge, that's why I was insisting and saying that at least when we'll be looking at this, it won't be just like whatever that you're doing. It is just for the sake, no, or you're very good in Excel. So in this case, you tend to maybe assume that whatever that you have is what is in BDA. No, at this point, you'll find that it will be very, very important with the knowledge that we had studied back then is what now we are going to apply here. When you are talking about high-low or regression analysis method, the question is, do you have this concept? Can you present this now in Excel? These are some of the questions that we always tend to ask ourselves. When we read about the aspect of estimation of our revenue, profit, and prices, do we have this knowledge of cost estimation? Yes, we do have. Now, how can we apply it when it comes to business data analytics or using Excel functions? The same concept with break-even point, the same concept with budget. All this knowledge is what we had in theory. Now, whatever that we'll be doing is applying the same knowledge in practice. That would be very key for us to have it in mind. That would be very key for us to have it in mind. The other key application, which is amongst the specialization area, would be expected to understand auditing very well. Will be expected to understand the concept of auditing. At some point, I know before you reach at this level, you must have done auditing somewhere, even if you hadn't specialized with auditing at this level, but you must have done auditing somewhere. So using that knowledge, will you be able to apply the same concept here? These are what we'll be looking at. The same case, you'll find that I will be talking about taxation and public financial management. At some point in time, you must have considered tax. You must have considered taxation. So the big question is that with the knowledge that we have, with the knowledge that we had, can we apply it now when it comes to practice? And more so, whenever we are using these applications like Excel, that will be very important for us. The other key element you'll find that now we'll be having the emerging issues. Emerging issues in data analytics. And of course, in this case, we'll be looking at the concept of data security, talk about ethical issues, talk about safetyism and challenges in data analytics. All these items we will be expected to cover. Now, again, you'll find that this is another area for theory. See, this is another area for theory. This is simply another area that will be expected to have the theory part. This is another area that will be expected to have the theory part. We've said the other key area that we expect to have the theory part is this topic number 2. This topic number 2. This is another area, of course, that will be expected to have the theory part. So for our case, or for the purpose of the class, of course, we have to balance all this. Number one, what Mwalimu will do, Mwalimu will assume that all of us, we've never attended any Excel class. That's what Mwalimu will assume, that we've never attended any Excel class. So we'll be starting from the basic part. As number one, understanding the basics of Excel, understanding some of these shortcuts. After that, we just go step by step. mastering some of the key concepts, to the point that now we are going to look at the main applications. So this is what BDA will entail, where we've stated we have only 5 topics. Out of the 5 topics, 2 topics are 100% theory. 2 topics are 100% theoretical. And it is on these 2 topics that you'll find whatever that will be tested now for the purpose of exams. It is out of these 2 topics that the 20 marks that will be tested in your exam, that is where it is going to come from. That's where it is going to come from. So after doing this analysis, I'll want first of all to open the questions before we proceed to the next level. Karanja, any question? Any clarification? Any comment before we proceed to the next level? And maybe to make it clear, in our class, you can unmute and then talk to us. And that's how we normally tend to have a limitation of number. We normally tend to cap our numbers so that the conversation should not be on chat. The conversation should be like when you want to ask a question, or whenever Mwalimu has asked a question, you unmute, you talk to us. So I normally discourage conversation via chat, not unless you are in a position where if you unmute, you are going to disturb the rest. Not unless you are in a position whereby if you unmute, you're going to disturb the rest. But otherwise, conversation should be in aspect of what? Conversation should be in verbal. Our conversation should be verbal, where you unmute, you talk, then you mute. You unmute, you talk, then you mute. So almost you say that topic number 2 and the last topic, these are topics which are theory. Of course, I'm sharing this in our group just right now so that at least we have all this. So, Alan, any question?
Mwalimu, no question up to there. So this course work, there will be no writing much.
That's why they actually won't be writing much. Unless for writing, we'll be typing in our Excels. That is where we'll be taking our notes.
Okay, that is well noted.
That's where we'll be taking our notes. And that's why I was also saying, like, I noted that when I started, I think, I don't know, but my mic was muted, where I mentioned this case that in doing this, I'll be expecting you guys to have your PCs or laptops. I normally discourage you attending BDA class with a phone. I normally discourage you attending the class with a phone. Why? Because whatever that will be dealing with, whatever that will be handling, majority of it will be purely practical. So as we are doing it here, or rather when we'll be doing it, of course, in our Excel on this end, I'll also be expecting you guys to be doing the same on your end. And that's why Mwalimu was saying that at this point, if at all you are using your phone in attending this class, I discourage that completely. I am requesting you guys that whenever we'll be attending this class, kindly make sure that you're having your PC or laptop, because also for the case of exams, mark you me, you're going to use your laptops. You're going to use your laptops. You're going to use, of course, your laptops, the one that you attend the class with, but unless you don't have completely, that is when the examination center will give you. And they are always limited, because one of the requirements for business data analytics is at least you have a laptop of Core i3 and above, the effective laptop. Core i3, effective laptop, Core i3, at least that is an effective laptop that you should be having. So in this case, you'll find that there are some tools for us in class, like R. I'll just be taking you some of the various tools like R tool, right? Of course, when need be, we'll proceed and just have an intro a bit with Python, because we say that our case, we are not only doing this for exams, but rather for practice. So I'm really requesting that whenever we are attending these classes, make sure that you're having your PC with you or you're having your laptop with you there. In terms of the notes, they will be very minimal. Most of what we'll be doing it practically. If at all there must be a note that you must take, then it must be through what? It must be through our Excel. It must be through our Excel. So what I'm going to do right now, because we see that today was just an overview, as well as looking at the best strategy that you should always be having in conducting this paper. So number one, admission. If I had not shared the Excel in our respective groups, I'm going to share these Excel workbooks. The Excel workbooks that contains all the questions that have been tested since business data was introduced. I'm also going to share the theory part to see how questions are always being tested in theoretical. At the same time, I'm also going to share the theory notes. The theory notes, which constitute of topic number 2 and topic number 3 in full. So that by the time we are starting well guarded, where we are having everything as we are starting. So that's what you're going to do. That is what we are going to do. And again, I'm insisting for the purpose of this class, the reason why we normally tend to limit the number of live virtual class, the reason why we normally tend to limit the number of students attending live virtual classes is, number one, for us to be engaging, for us to engage with each other verbally. As I've said, most of the time, if you chat, trust me, I'm going to ignore. I want you in a situation where you have a question. I want you guys to always unmute and you talk to us, not unless you are in a position where you can't unmute, or if you unmute, you're going to cause disturbance with the rest. But otherwise, I'll be expecting you guys to do what? To engage with Mwalimu verbally. I ask, you answer verbally, not on chat. You're having a situation where you're not understanding, you unmute, you ask verbally, not through chatting, not through chatting, not through chatting. So that is what that's what we'll be doing. So at this point, our classes will always be on Fridays, as we had mentioned. We'll be having these classes on Fridays, of course, from around 7:45 to around 9:30. Saturdays, we'll be having these classes from 4:15 p.m. to around 6:15 p.m. So this is on Saturdays and this is on Fridays. So tomorrow we are meeting at this time, whereby tomorrow we are going to introduce the topic number 1, which is Introduction to Excel. Tomorrow we are going to introduce topic number 1, which is Introduction to Excel. So I'm expecting all of us tomorrow, we should be having our laptops and PCs. That is what Mwalimu is expecting, that we should be having our laptops and PCs. So unless there's a pressing concern, you can raise it. Otherwise, Mwalimu will want to wish us a good night. We meet tomorrow at exactly 4:15 p.m. Unless there's a pressing concern, Mwalimu will want to wish us a good night. Great. So you guys have a good night. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.